Now to this issue, and it's something that Shahan and I were discussing earlier this week, in fact, and it's a petition against the term coloured as a racial classification. Glen Snyman is the leader and chairperson of People Against Racial Classification. That group is calling for the removal of the word coloured from all official government forms, private institutions, and critically, the Employment Equity Act. They believe it's confusing, derogatory and racist. Now, his plea is being considered by the select forms.
Yes, we propose that that should rather go on the form because that is a more moral grouping that could be used to group the South African society by. In fact, it's going to be a lot.
It would be. Sounds quite difficult to get right. What if you are you have a Zulu mum and a Khoisan dad? Then what do you put on the form?
When it refers to cultural groupings, a family needs to choose which identity they assume. If, for example, Muslim person would date a Christian person, you can only choose one religion. But when it comes to human biology, to say that a white person and a black person is mixed and create a colored, or an Indian and a colored, or whatsoever, that becomes biologically confusing.
So I hear what you're saying, but what if you just say mixed heritage? Because some people are very proud to have a heritage that is perhaps both Zulu and German, for example. So if you're going to be accurate, why not acknowledge, that there's mixed heritage? And you're saying people should choose. I don't know if that's right either.
Yes, people should choose for themselves what groups and identities they need to assume. But what we are saying as PARC is that by using the old apartheid race classification blocks, which was used and to describe you by the color of your skin, by physical appearance, that in itself is not accurate. Race is not scientific, nor is it cultural. So we should stay away from that.
No, and I understand the hurt that brings. The sad reality is that apartheid gave more rights to coloured and Indian people than black African people, and more rights to white people over all those groups. If we ignore the reality that black African people were at the bottom of the ladder during apartheid, surely we're not going to properly deal with redress, especially when it comes to issues around employment equity, for example. So how would you suggest that is tackled?
Sally, even the first statement that you made is in dispute, that coloreds and Indians were more or lesser oppressed than black people.
I'll give you, look, I will just let me interject and explain what I mean. I'm using that because, for example, if you look into the history of any jail, and I'm thinking of number 4 on Constitution Hill, the food that coloured and Indians were given was a little bit more than black people. That's the kind of context I'm giving you. But go ahead.
Okay. We are 28 years now in a new democracy, and what happened in the past happened in the past. And we propose to government that they should use a poverty barometer to look who is in need and who is in need of jobs and services, and not discriminate against people or punish the current new generations for the trespasses of their ancestors or their parents, what they did in the apartheid time. We should move on and not discriminate against a new generation.
You have history on this one because if my research is correct, you were accused of fraud as a teacher for calling yourself African to get a job, and clearly you were making a point about your heritage and how you'd like to be seen. Have you had a response? Did the committee today give you any indication that they would seriously entertain your suggestions?
On the history with the education department on me taking African on a job application form, they recently accepted that. So I may take African because I regard myself as an African, and so does every South African born and living in South Africa, including white people, can be regarded as African. What the committee said today is I was just given an opportunity to present my petition, and they will now discuss the matter further and decide how this will move forward to the National Assembly. What they totally agreed on is that there's a need for a national debate on South African identity.
Absolutely, and it's a completely fascinating issue that you are raising, and I think you're right. It is a debate that needs to be had. We need to engage with this, and thank you so much for raising it. Glen Snyman, he's leader and chairperson of People Against Racial Classification. He's launched a petition against the use of the word coloured as a form of racial classification.